So from the get-go, we've got this scene here, and these are just spheres, easy spheres, and I'll talk about these redshift object tags in a second. So I had a sphere, okay, and we'll look at these in the shading mode here. We can do quick lines here. So you can tell they have this little raised bit, which I saw from that render image. Basically, it's just, I just made a loop select. If you go to select tools, sorry, if you have your object selected here and you just go to polygon mode, and you go to select, ring select, you can just go ahead and see, you can just select rings. So I just selected 3 rings and then I hit E. No, sorry, I selected 3 rings and I right clicked and I just hit extrude, which is MT. Pulled those out and then hit T to switch to scale and just scaled it in just a little bit so that it gave it a little bevel. Okay, and then pull it out again. So you can see there's a couple layers there. Okay, so easy. So just in case you didn't understand what I just said, here's our new sphere. Okay, we've got a sphere from the start. We're going to add 64. Okay, there we go. Standard type. We're going to hit this button, or C, to make it editable. Select, ring select, and we've got our polygon selected here. And I'm just going to go, we'll go to this middle view here. So click the middle one, and we'll hit U, Y, and that'll select the 2 next to it. So that just makes it grow. So U will bring up your options for everything that you can do, for all your shortcut options. If you hit Y, that's going to grow selection, so that's what we did. So now we can go back to this view, now we've got that selected. And middle mouse click in and out of these windows, that's what I'm doing there. So if I right click and go to extrude, and then I pull that out, you can see it's extruded in, or I can extrude it out. So I'm just clicking and dragging. And so I pull it out a little bit, and then a little bit more, and on that one, I'm just going to grab it and slide it in this way on the Y only. So that's just going to give it that little bevel. So now we have it come out and then bevel in a little bit, and that's how we created that little hard edge there on these circles. Okay, so there you go. Easy peasy. Okay, now for the lighting, I kind of went over that. It's a pretty basic setup. I've got a big overhead. This light's kind of just a nice light, rim light. We've just got I like to use a disc as a floor instead of a plane, because the horizon line, if you do catch it, if your lights are lighting everything up, with a disc you can kind of smooth out the horizon line, and it kind of provides like a nicer, more natural looking horizon than a sharp edge. So just keep that in mind. But honestly, with our lighting, we're not even going to see the edge of it, so not a big deal. Okay, so let's take these. Let's move this down here so I have all of them together. We're just going to hold Alt and click these, and then click again, and that's going to turn all those off so they're not rendering. So we just have this one that we can look at here. So we'll open up a Redshift, go to Render View, and we'll hit Progressive Rendering on that. We'll take a look at that. Yep. Okay, so we can see we can pull up a render region here, and we can swap the bucket rendering just so we can get a little clearer view of what's happening here. Okay, so what we've got going on here with this material is quite a bit, but it's not really as complicated as it looks. So all we need to do is create a new material. So we'll go create Redshift material. We'll throw that on our sphere. Okay, sphere. This is it. We'll delete this Redshift object tag. So we'll create that in a second. So right now, if we take a look at this, we can make this smaller just so everything goes faster. Take that render view off. If you want, we can plug this in right here so we can build it in to our scene. We'll take the picture-in-picture part off though, so it's taking up space. Okay, so here's our little shape. You can see our light setup is providing a nice lighting for this. Okay, so what we need to do is double click this, our object down here, and we can start playing around with the material. 1 second, let me check what these noises are. Okay. Let me put some music on. I never finished getting my music up. I don't want to get in trouble, so I gotta use my music, my music I pay for. I use Soundstripe on my videos. If you're looking for a good subscription-based audio, Soundstripe is amazing. There we go. Money. Okay. That is as low as that gets. That's wild. Okay, we'll let that go for a little bit. So we're auto-saving here. But we've got our object here, and we're going to go to plastic as the default. You can see it's not going to change that much at all. So one thing, if we look at the candy reference image, I mean, candy's kind of see-through, right? So we can start with something like jade, if you wanted, and that's just going to really start getting into subsurface scattering and all this stuff, and it gets pretty crazy. Alright, this music's too much. Let's turn that down. Okay. We've turned that down. But jade is just not going to look that great. So let's try something more like tinted glass. That's better. We see you've got this colored see-through glass, but candy's not that see-through. So what we can do are several things. One, we can go down here to the transmission, and this is going to be the amount of light, like how see-through it is, basically. So you can say one thing, you can say thin-walled, and that's going to make it like a bubble, where there's no actual depth to the geometry. So you have this nice bubble. We don't want that, obviously. That's not what we want. We want it to be sort of less see-through, right? More opaque and less transparent, more translucent. So if we bring the weight down of this, that's what's going to start happening. So now we're going to see that we get less light comes through there. So in order to illustrate this, let's bring in a light real quick. And we're going to bring this light and we're going to put it inside our object here. If I can grab the right axes. And I'll rotate it 90 degrees, hold shift to rotate it 5-degree increments. And you'll be able to tell here if we rotate this that the light is wanting to come through. So there's a light coming through this object, and as we double click this to open this back up, and we start playing with this level of weight here, you'll see the higher up it goes, the more it's going to shine through there. The lower it is, the more thick and murky it is, and the less light is escaping our object. So we want somewhere in between really thick and really light. As you notice, it also gets darker as we do this. So part of that is because we don't have a diffuse color. So that means it's just going to be basically like a mirror. So first thing we're going to want to do is, let's say we want a red candy. We'll start with red. We add that here, and we crank up the weight of the diffuse. Now we're going to get that red color back in it, but we're still going to have it where the light is kind of coming through, and you can see it where it hits the bevel we created. So that's perfect. I'm going to check this beeping 1 second. So we've got an object that has color, and it also has color inside of it, and it's not quite see-through, it's not quite translucent either. So it's a couple things we can do. We could do it that way, which we are going to mess with the diffuse color, but right now we're going to leave it off because I'm going to show the difference with the subsurface settings here. So if we crank this all the way back up, we've got a very see-through plastic here, like a glass. And we want to create it to be less see-through and absorb more of that light as it passes through it. We're going to up the absorption scale. So the higher this is, it's going to just like really clamp down. And so think of it like when you are in the ocean and you look down and you can kind of see down a little bit, but you can't see the bottom, right? But when you're in a pool, you can look down and see the bottom. So the absorption is different because of all the stuff in the water and everything. So the further you get really clear water is going to have really low absorption scale, and really murkier water is going to have a higher absorption scale. So we can mess with that. So here we go. Let's get rid of this light. And we're going to up this about 0.02. And so that's still pretty see-through, and that's not It's a little too candy-ish for me. I think 0.03, and this is kind of the process. It's just like little tiny minuscule adjustments at a time. 0.04. That looks pretty good to me. I like the amount of light that's coming through that. You can tell it's kind of see-through here on the edges, but it doesn't look so see-through that it looks like a bubble or it looks like glass or anything. So it's very smooth right now, very red. So we're okay with that. And so we can add a little red back into that a couple ways. We can change the reflection color, which I think we should. Just a teeniest bit, just a hint of red. And that's just going to affect the color of these reflections. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring a little bit of this red back in. Maybe not. And we're going to go down here to this, up the color of that. There we go. Okay, so we want this to be a little more like that. Okay, I am okay with that, because what we're going to do is we're going to create sort of this noise map to create the actual colors and the textures. But right now we're just kind of creating the density of our candy. So that looks like a good clear melt in your mouth kind of candy. We're gonna 0.05. Let's try 0.06. I like to try to test it real quick before I get settled. See what that looks like. I like that. Okay. Yeah. I'm good with that. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to noise. You type it in up here, and we're going to grab a max on noise and click and drag that in. If you ever get lost in here, hold Alt and move middle mouse click to move around, and then you can get lost. And you're like, oh no, where the heck am I? Hit H. H on the keyboard will bring you back. So there you go. It'll frame everything up for you. So what we're going to do with this noise is we're going to plug it into the surface here. So we're going to get a preview of what this noise is going to be on our object here. And we're going to scroll through this until we get something we like. Sort of like a candy kind of vibe to it. I don't mind this. We're going to up the scale to about 5. Yeah. Looks like a good organic kind of candy. Like it's been kind of melded together, like it's something wet and it's kind of cooled together. So we're going to clamp it just a bit to give it a little more contrast. We're going to clamp those lower clips. And that looks like a ghost face there. It's kind of spooky. Okay. So we've got that. So we're going to take this and we're going to add a bump map. Okay. And we're going to drag this in there. Texture, input. Then drag this into the redshift material down here. Overall, bump input. Plug this back into the surface. And what we'll see is we'll have this creating a bump map on top of that. You can see now we have this kind of nice organic roughness to it. It's nothing dramatic. Just a nice little bit that makes it look like it's kind of been a hardened candy. So that's a good, nice little touch we've done right off the bat. So another thing we can do is clone this. So hold Control, click, and drag. We'll make a copy of it. And we're going to drag this into the surface again to look at what this is going to look like. And we're just going to change the seed. And what that does, that just creates the exact same look, just in a different layout. So it's not going to, the noise is going to be exactly the same type, wavy turbulence. It's just going to generate it randomly so we don't have an exact copy. And what I'm going to do with that one is I'm actually going to take the scale of the X. If you see here, we've got the X, Y, and Z. We take the scale of the X, turn it to 10. The scale of the Z, turn it to 10. And there we go. Now we've got this kind of sweeping look across this. And we can scale this down. And you start to see as we scale that down, it kind of gets this ring pattern effect to it. And we can start messing with this, say 0.2. And that'll really get those rings really tight. So we can add some contrast back to this because we want it to be very dramatic. So basically this is going to be that look as if it's been molded out of a machine. So this is going to give it that bump that's going to make it look like it's been grinded around and just kind of been formed to create this ball. So we've got that. So what we're going to do with that is we can't just plug this in here because that's going to override that, and we can't plug it in over top or anything, so we need to somehow mix these two bump maps. So we need another bump map, and we need this bump blender. I'm going to drag that and pull that in here. So we're going to take this first bump map we have, and we're going to make it the base. Take the second bump map, plug it in, texture input. Then we're going to make this layer 0 bump input. Okay? And then we're going to drag that and replace that into the bump input. So now you'll see we'll plug this into our output, and you won't see any difference. You won't see the effects of this yet. It just looks like the normal candy. That's because the weight of the second layer that we have here is 0. So if we add that to 1, then it's going to override it completely, and we're not going to get any of the weight of the first layer. So what we need to do is we need to either blend it halfway or set it to additive. So when you set it to additive, automatically it's going to keep this layer there, and whatever the white values are from this image, they're going to be added on top of this image. So it's just like in Photoshop when you set something to add, it's going to like amplify on top of itself. So the way it works is black values don't get raised up, white values do get raised up because their input height scale is set to 1. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to lower this down. It's a little intense. I like how that's looking, but I think it's a little much. But instead of lowering the impact of that all the way down, I'm going to also just take this bump and lower it down to like 0.25. There we go. So now we have these kind of organic chunks, and we can up this like 1.5 maybe. Yeah, so we get more of these little organic chunks showing up, but we still have that horizontal slicing like it was molded and scooped out of a machine. Okay, so that's looking really, really good right now. So now a couple things we haven't messed with at all, and that's reflection roughness. And also this backlight translucency, which is kind of like a cheap way of doing what we were doing with this absorption scale. It's not as accurate, but it might help get some quick results. So if we just crank that up, let's just see what happens. Yeah, our optic's too thick for that to really work. But this is actually really good for things like paper. So if you have a thin object and you add this on, it's going to let the light shine through and change the color really nice without having to actually do the calculations of a subsurface scattering. Anywho, okay, so we've got this going. So we can change the roughness of our candy here. So right now it's very shiny. But if we start roughing this up, you'll see we start losing some of that shine. And now it doesn't quite look like it's got this nice clear coat over, and it doesn't look near as yummy. This looks more like a candy you left out on a counter for a couple of years. So let's take it down. I think somewhere around 1 or 0.1 or 0.2. Yeah, 0.2 looks pretty good. Okay. So now we're looking really good there with this nice candy finish. So one thing I want to do is it's still too uniform. Like the red is just still too solid. Everything's just one color. It looks like a bad vitamin you would take or something as a kid's candy that was like the discount off brand. So what we're going to do is we're going to once again add max on noise. Drag that in. This time we're going to plug it into the surface so we can see what this is looking like. And we're going to use this for color this time. So we're going to use this red, and we're going to do a darker red. Okay, and we're going to choose a different noise. Just going to kind of scroll around in here and see what we find. It's kind of a fun one. So let's say that. Okay, let's up the scale to 10. Let's bring the low clip down and the high clip down. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and once again, let's make this more like that. Not as much, though. Just a little bit. Yeah, okay. So now we've got that. So we're going to take this, and we're going to plug that into our refraction, transmission, refraction, color. Okay. Then we're going to plug that in. So what that has done is screwed up our candy. So what's happened here is I wanted to plug it in to this color, and I accidentally plugged it in to a color up here, this color. That's not what I meant to do. So take that out. We want that to be white. And I want this to plug into the subsurface transmittance. So that is down here in the refraction transmittance. There we go. Okay, so that looks like it's messed it up a little bit, but let's just, I think that's going to be okay. So we're going to go ahead and mess with this again and lower it back down. And there we go. When we lower that back down to 0.1, now you're seeing we have these dark spots in the candy where like sometimes the light's not quite getting through. Like there are these little gaps in there and stuff where you're just not quite getting, the light's not getting through it all the way. So there we go. That is a really nice candy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this and we're going to go to our render settings. I'm just going to make it look a little nicer. We're going to go to 1080p. That's not what I meant to do. Film 1080p. There we go. And in the redshift settings, this is where it's really important. You really need GI. So I'm going to turn brute force and brute force for my primary and secondary. You can do irradiance cache for your first one. It's going to be a little faster, but it's going to be less accurate. And honestly, it's not that much faster enough to make it worth it. So I like to do brute force. And then I up the number of bounces to 6. And then the key is to get your number of rays up a little bit, because what GI is going to do are these shadows here and stuff where the light's bouncing off of it and everything's getting kind of funky. Those are going to need to come up. Okay. And we'll grab this and pull it down here so we're not getting too much. We're going to keep our eye on this little gap right here. So that's going to be good there. So now we need to worry about our unified sampling. Now a lot of people think that the only thing you need are these right here. And these actually, if you can avoid touching these, your actually render is going to be more efficient and way cleaner. So what we're going to do is, since we're not using depth of field and we're not using motion blur and we're not using volumes, we probably don't have to touch these. Now, because we are using subsurface scattering, we might need to clean this up. We're going to see. But we're going to try not to. Now, the adaptive threshold, I do like to take down to 0.003. But beyond that, we're going to go down here and twirl down where it says sampling overrides. And we're going to twirl that down. And basically what this is going to do is, instead of using 4 as a minimum and 16 as a maximum, it's going to say when I'm thinking about reflections, I'm just going to use this number of samples. Okay, so we're going to say, click that, and we're going to set it to 512. And you'll see here just the difference that's going to happen with these reflections. And they're not that complicated. That's going to be where the bump map is and how the light's bouncing off the bump map and stuff. Okay, so we're still not going to see any difference in our shadows and the way the light's coming through things. Now, this is where we're going to see some difference. Refraction, that's going to be in this bit where we can see through our object. So we're going to turn that on, and we're going to set it to 512 as well. And you'll see this will take a little longer to render every time, but you see already we cleared up that noise that was inside the object. So now that light that was coming through and getting kind of scattered inside there, creating these weird little artifacts, that's going to be cleaned up, and we're not going to have to worry about that. You can see it right here. We're going to move this over and let it render that, and you'll see that that noise will go away. Because that refraction, that's enough samples to get rid of it. There we go. Boom. So that's good. And the key is to get this stay, 16, 32, 64, 128, 512, right? 256. Yeah, so you want to stay in those multiples when it comes to sampling. You don't have to. You can go wherever you want, but it's going to be the cleanest if you can stay within those numbers. So now we've got these weird shadows coming out here. So this is either going to be in single scattering, subsurface, multiple scattering, or in lighting. Okay, so we're going to test lighting first. And we're going to set our lighting up to 1024. And we're going to see what happens here to these. Moment of truth. Voila. So that cleaned that up real nice. So that all that shadow and noise, that was coming from our lighting samples and not actually from the subsurface samples or anything like that. Okay, so let's take off our render window here and just let it render. And that's it. And we haven't touched these samples at all, and we've got a really clean render. That's really clean because we're using these overrides. So basically, if you had cranked all these up, what that does, that sets every single one of these to that. And we don't need to. We don't need to calculate volumes or single scattering or this or that. So basically, you can do a little less. And obviously, you know, we could do some things less, some things more. So it just gives you more options to put power where you need power and not put power where you don't need to put power. So pretty cool. Okay, so that is how we can do it with a nice bump map on it. But if we wanted to use displacement and stuff, we could. So let's see how we would do this if we wanted to do another one. So we'll click and drag this, hold control and click and drag, and we'll rotate it so it's not exactly the same, right? Okay. And then we're gonna have our material here. This is our live candy. Click, hold control and drag, open up this. So let's say we wanted to change the color of this. We could do it several ways. One way would be to take this material, go to overall tint, and just change the color. Now what that's going to do is that's going to multiply the color over whatever it is. So let's throw that on this. Bring up a window here. We can take off bucket rendering so it's a little faster. This is going to be right here. So you can see it's green, but it's just kind of funky because it's multiplying through the red. So it's just kind of weird. But if you wanted it to just be like a little orange, you know, you actually could just add some yellow to that and get kind of a weird effect there. But so I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. What I would do is I would go into the individual layers here. Pull this back out. So first off, we've got this noise. And so let's say we want one that's kind of like an orange and yellow kind of vibe. Let's say this one we want it to be a little more orange. There we go. Kind of like a orange flavored one or a lemon citrus, something like that. Okay, so now we've already got this nice color, but you can see you get this weird kind of thing going on there. So all you need to do is, once you've done that, if you don't want it to look exactly like this one, change the seed. And it'll be slightly different. It'll be perfect. So another thing we can do is back in here, because I think that's all we're plugging into, driving color from. I think that's all we need to do is change the color of that. But if you want to change it up a little bit, you can go in here, change the seeds of these noises. And that way yours isn't an exact clone of this one, just slightly different colored. It's actually going to have a different bump pattern and everything on it. So just with a few little adjustments, you have a completely unique candy. And we could change it. Again, we could do like a blue and a purple. That's kind of a cool kind of color. But you can see how the light is coming through. You can tell it's see-through because it's lighting up the floor in the brighter spots where the object is thinner, things like that. So very, very neat. They make a nice little candy. Too blue. Let's do like green with a teal. Ugh. There we go. I like that, like a sour apple. Very cool. So here's the difference between this object and this one. So with this one, what I did is this is the material for that. So I actually, instead of using a bump map only, I used a displacement map. And I will show you how to do that. And I actually didn't use the refraction. I changed the reflection color a little bit. Yeah, it's basically the same setup. I just used displacement instead of bump solely. So let's take a look at that, at what that looks like. So let's hide this again, Alt click. We'll get this object out. We'll bring this up, zoom in, so you can see that easily. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click this sphere, go to Redshift tags, Redshift object, and nothing's going to happen. We're going to go to geometry, we're going to go to override, we're going to enable tessellation, and we're going to enable displacement. So what enabling tessellation does is basically, if we look at our lines here, when you add tessellation, that's the same as adding a subsurface divide. If you hold Alt and click, it will throw it into a surface divide. So you see you have all these more polygons. Now you got a lot smoother. Everything's got a lot more geometry. But the difference is when you do it through a Redshift tag is it doesn't slow down your scene. It doesn't calculate that geometry until you hit render. So it goes a lot faster. So now I don't have to worry about a whole lot of things going on. A whole lot of geometry. I can just leave it how it is. Scale this up. Look at that. And so what I need to do is inside of this layer, I need to add something that plugs into the displacement. And we can do several different things here for fun. Obviously, we're going to need a max on noise. It's my favorite. And again, if you don't have max on noise available, what you can do is add a noise. If you spell it right. Noise. Then a C4D shader. Yep. Take this noise, set it up exactly the same way. Sorry, no. You scratch all that. What you do is you take a C4D shader. You choose shader. You choose noise. You go into that noise. You set it up exactly the same way we're doing it inside max on noise. Then you take a texture node. Plug that into that. Yep. And then you would plug that in to wherever you want. And it's going to be exactly the same, except it's going to be a little harder on your machine because it's going to have to bake it down. But if you don't have the version of Redshift that allows you to use max on noise, you can use it that way. And that's been available from the beginning. Okay. New noise. What we're going to do is we're going to plug that in to our surface so we can see what we're doing. Now, let's say we want a noise that looks like somebody's like kind of taking a few dents out of this bad boy. Like this might work. Let's up the scale of that. Maybe a couple pieces have chipped away. So we're going to low clip that. There we go. We're going to bring the high clip down. Make that very dramatic. Well, thanks, H Mart. Look at that. You got the pizza swipe. Claps in the chat. Claps in the chat for H Mart. Hey, man. Let's get some Effectatron in there. Okay, so this is going to look like we've got maybe some little chips and things going on along the top of our candy here. This probably won't look real, but it might be fun to take a look at. So what you do with the noise and displacement is you're going to need a displacement node, which we just typed that in here. Grab your noise, plug it into displacement, texture map. Displacement does not go into your material though. Your material, this displacement goes actually straight into your output. Output and then displacement. And now we're going to see that this is going to take effect here once we plug this into here. And you can see there's not a whole lot of difference here. And that's because in our object tag, we have to go down into our displacement settings here. And we need to choose the scale of this. So we're going to say 5 and 5. And that's just going to make that way more dramatic. And you can see here that that's going to punch that out. So now it looks like this little candy's got little hard bits to it, like it got stuck to another candy or something. Let's go ahead and reverse the scale of this. -1. And now that should make it look like it's punched in instead. Yeah. So now you can just see that's just a quick way to add some detail in there. But let's get a noise that's a little less bizarre and more practical. So we're going to go back to our noises here. We're not going to use cell. We're going to use something that looks more like just generic chips. Okay. Let's take this. Let's up it to 20. There we go. Bring our low clip back down. High clip back down as well. We're going to mess with our cycles here. It's gonna get really trippy, so we're not gonna do that. Contrast, there we go. So now this should look like wherever it's white is where it's gonna be sticking out, and wherever it's black, it's not gonna have a change. But since we have it inverted, it means wherever it's white is gonna be pulled into the object, and wherever it's black, there's gonna be no change. So if we plug this into our displacement, and then plug this back in here, it should look like these pieces have been chipped out and are worn away from our object here. And indeed, it does. We can bring this down so we can make it a little wider. So now you can see we've got this candy that looks like it's been chipped away. It's been in a bag of other candies and it's got worn away. So there we go. Nice multicolor candy with using nothing but max on noise and stuff like that. So I had a person ask how to make that, how to make candy. So I thought I'd show how to make some candy. Again, let's take a look at what he, and obviously styles are different and stuff, so you can do it multiple ways. In my class, he asked if we could make some candy to look like that a little bit. So I've made some candy. We can make it a little more vibrant of a color if we want, like yellow or something. And but there you go. That's how you do it. So if we wanted to change that, we'd grab our object. Once again, we go down to our max on noise here, scroll up because this is our color. And you can label these if you want in the basic tab. Color. And so now over here, it will say color and then max on noise. There you go. We can make it like a bright, very bright yellow and like a nice bright orange. And now we'll get this kind of bright orange, yellow, citrus flavored candy. I really like the pink and purple one though. Pink. And maybe a darker purple. Let's see how that looks. A little more vibrant. Yeah. Let's try this color. This is all just playing around at this point. Okay, but there you go. That's how you would make a nice candy. Let's go back to the red. There we go. We can make it a little brighter. Take a look at that. It's not bad. There we go. I like that. That looks like a good flavor. Okay, so we'll let that render. We'll hit this. And we can see we've got all of our settings cranked up to a nice high resolution. So I've been doing IPR rendering. IPR doesn't give you the final render, but the bucket render does. So we're going to let that go. You can also hit this render button here. Thanks. Loving the content. Thank you. So that wraps up how to make a nice, delicious candy. So Heath H. Mart, if, you know, you want to see how to make anything else, you have any, you want me to puzzle me, see if I can make something, find an image. But let's take this off. Let's look at this real quick. And we'll turn all these back on. Pull the camera back up, and we'll take a look at all these at once. Redshift render view. Let's just close that out. Redshift render view. Yabba-daboo. And we'll go pop. There we go. There we go. Cool, cool, cool. We'll let those render. Now we'll take a little bit because we have cranked up the settings so it's really clean. But it will still be faster. Enhance, yeah. I can make I really want to make a little character walk around. Or a slice of pizza or something. But 44 minutes, 45 minutes stream, make some candy. It's not too bad. Then I can just load up, I'll post this on Instagram, I guess. I kind of like the way the other candies looked. We'll take a look at those real quick. They're less shiny. You can have more of a rough coat. So the same way I did that, let's take this candy, and then basically it took the noise from this. It's very stretched out. Yep, copy, bring that down. And then we're going to use Displacement Blender. Same thing we did with the Bump Map Blender. Copy, drag that down. Plug this in here. Plug this into the Displacement Blender. This is going to be layer 1. This is going to be the base though. Pop. Grab, drag, base. Additive mode, blend weight, let's say like half. Plug that into the displace. And now we can take a look at what this looks like. Instead of this. So now it's going to have a lot more texture to it. And that's because this displacement map is way too cranked up. So we're going to say -0.1. Really pull that down. So this is going to be less intense. So that way we have these little cuts across mixing in with these gashes that are being cut out. So now you have it's a little more real than when you have the bump map. The bump blender is kind of like in video games, it kind of fakes the reflection. It makes it look like it's wet or that it has some little scratches and things on it, but in reality it doesn't. Displacement actually displaces the geometry so that there are dents and things in it. So with the bump map, if you move around and get real close to it, you'll realize it's actually flat, even though it looks like it's got scrapes on it. But with displacement, if I get in there, I can actually go inside those little divots because they do actually exist in the object's geometry. They're not being added until render time because of a redshift tag, so that's a huge advantage. You don't have to have all that geometry. You don't have to have it calculating in your viewport. It's going to do all of that when you hit render. This tag here. So that adds that really cool. So these are just kind of less shiny too and more noisy. And we can adjust that. I do like the way this one's looking, but let's just mess with this roughness a little bit and just see if we like it. Now that it's got all this stuff on it, if you like it a little more noisy or not. Yeah, that's basically it. I think I like it when it is shinier. That one makes more sense shiny. Okay. Cool beans. Alright, so while that's rendering, let's just save this. and we'll make something else. What do you say? We got 15 minutes left or so. I was trying to go for an hour. Finish that up quickly. Thanks for watching the live stream. Real quick, I just wanted to go ahead and show. I posted a picture of the Lollipop on Instagram. I got a lot of likes and stuff, and I wanted to show the live stream, but also show a little bit of what I did after the stream just to kind of create the Lollipop effect. It's very simple. I just added this cylinder object, stretched it out, made it the right size. I didn't even make it editable. Just gave it a big height and a small radius and stuck it in there. Rotated the candy around, obviously, and I think all I did different with the lighting is I pulled the camera down a little bit, and then I brought this light that was over here and I brought it over here. I just wanted to make sure that I showed that, because I don't like when I see a tutorial with a thumbnail or something that looks good and then they never actually get to that point. We got really close to that point. Basically I just got rid of all the other spheres. They're all hidden. Left this candy. Then I had a comment on Instagram that said it looked really good, but it would look better if the specular was less. So I went ahead and tried that a little bit. Let me show you what that looks like. So this is our candy post that we posted on Instagram, and someone suggested that we lower the specular. So this is with half the specular. I think that looks pretty good as well. And then this is with even less specular. This is half. Okay, this is even less. Yeah, so this is really low specular. This is like 0.4, and the roughness turned up a little bit. I think it looks pretty good. It's really, up to you whether what you were going for. There's no right or wrong answer. I also added a little cloner of spheres with displacement and put physics on them. Just drop them. Actually, I thought, since there's some chips missing, there should be some crumbles, but I don't think it really works as well as just when there were. There's nothing there. I don't think it needed them. But here's our shiny one. I think it looks pretty good. It might look better without the specular as well. So it's really up to you. I just wanted to make sure I showed how I got that. And then the main reason I added this stick is because this part right here, this is what really sells it, makes it look really cool, is you see the way it distorts the stick as it goes inside of it, and you kind of have that classic look there. And then, so there you go. Cool little candy, pretty easy to make. This is my first draft. These are kind of like a weird, cheap, off-brand candy version, I think. I think this looks a lot better. So here we are with our nice candy lollipop. It makes me think of high school for some reason. I guess I used to eat suckers in high school. Anyway, here we go. So I just want to show that off real quick. And our render settings, just want to make sure that I made those clear. Our samples and stuff we left to default. Our adaptive threshold is 0.03. Our overrides, we added 512 to reflection, refraction, and light at 1024. And the GI, brute force 6 bounces, 1024 rays. Okay, so there you go. If you want to do something with some depth of field or something like that, you would need to increase these numbers. Anyway, cool. Just want to show that off and make sure that was included so that the thumbnail didn't look like clickbait. This is actually the candy we made. I didn't change the texture except for changing the specular and stuff. So all I did was rotate and add a stick and move the lighting a little bit. Just wanted to make that clear. Thanks for watching. If you guys like live streams, I might try to live stream some more. I'd love to do it regularly. It's really fun. Any ideas and suggestions for live streams, be sure to follow me on Twitch. I do a lot of gaming and stuff too. So there's that. But I might try streaming on YouTube. I haven't done that before. But if you guys think that'd be helpful, I can try that as well. Okay. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Boom. Look at that. We're almost done. Redshift. Create redshift material. Boom, 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 boom. Black. Now I need a curvature. Is it really what I want? Yep. Put that into the overall emission. Take a look at this real quick. Throw this on this object. Get a redshift light in here. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Pull that up and out. There we go. Let's just do it like that. Do a backlight as well. Both these lights need to go way down to like 10. Add a floor real quick. Create a new material for the floor. No curvature. We're going to go wireframe. We're going quick now. We're just rolling. Polygon color black. Wire color light blue. Okay, plug that into the surface. Also, plug this into overall emission. Overall emission amount. Pop. Pop, pop, pop. There we go. Plug that in there. Where'd my plane go? I assume deleted it. Okay. And then this material, we got to plug in here. We want the emission to actually matter as well. Okay. Redshift. Render. Oh, is this still rendering my candy? Yeah. We can stop that. Oh, look, we're getting very Tron-y. We don't want these hidden lines in the wireframe. I don't like those. There we go. Tron. Make this a little rough. Oh, we're looking very much like Tron already. Okay, we're sure we're gonna go through a ramp. Plug that into the ramp. Ramp into the emission color, as well as the diffuse color. The ramp's gonna go from that to light blue as well. Boom. Lighter blue, even. Yeah. So now we can adjust the curvature here. That's money. Okay, overall emission, crank that up to 2. Voila, are you getting all this? Are you following? So instantly, we go in here, we go to bloom, we check that box, we scroll this down, we tighten it up. We're in business here. Okay. So we take this, we drag it way up here, way out, go over here, that one. We add some like hexagons maybe. With the same effect on it. On a cloner. In the plane. No, actually, sorry. Cloner object. Object. Click the object. Plane. Boom. The up vector needs to be y plus. No, I never get that right. X plus. X minus. Okay, y plus, and then we'll just take this and we're going to rotate it. Nope. Interesting. Give me the right. Huh. Wonder why it's not aiming up. What have I done wrong here? Boop. Almost the last one. It's always the last one you try. There we go. Okay, cloner, object, render distance, distribution surface. Let's do like, I don't know. Let's shorten them up. Not tiny them up, shorten them up. Let's go bigger radius. 5 segments, that's fine, it could be less. height down. There we go. We really just want it to be kind of all over the floor. So we're gonna go 10,000 of them. 5,000 of them. Maybe just 2,000 would be enough. If we can type. That might look cool. Let's see what 2,000 of those look like with this same material on it. Ooh, that does look kind of cool. But, you know, it doesn't look as clean as Tron. Tron's like super basic. So let's just bring the Tron logo up. Scoot this back so we have more of it. And then for the plane, we can actually just go 20 and 20 if we really want it to be tighter. Got the text here. We can make it a little thicker because Tron was pretty thick. There we go. Okay, and we're also going to go in here and make this almost glass, but not red, obviously. So I want this to be sort of a see-through glass. Fascinating. I don't know why you don't have a badge yet. That looks pretty cool. Let's go to the emission. We can crank this up to like 5. Really make it pop. That's pretty sick. And then now we're getting glowy. I'm liking this. Okay. We can add a little roughness to the glass, which I really don't need to. Tron's so clean. I think we just do the tiniest amount of roughness. Maybe just a really light noise on there. Just the tiniest bit. Take a look at this. Turn the bloom off for that. Ba, 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 ba. Just want it to look like a little bit of dirt. A little bit of dirt. Yeah, there we go. It's not bad. There we go. Okay, that's going to go into the reflection. Roughness. And that's all I need. So yeah, there we go. And we can kind of clamp that down. See, the roughness doesn't look right with Tron, you know? Tron's just too clean. So what we can do is add a ramp. Plug that in. And plug it in. And really just kind of take a lot of that power out. Okay. Pretty cool. Bloom. Get in there. Very nice. Motex. Caps. We could add some little caps to this. Like that. Okay. I'm down with that. Your name changed colors. Lucky. starting to get there now. The softness is intense. I actually like it better without the roundness, I think. Just the hard edge. I kind of like the hard edge being the point. You can maybe try solid. Do a real little one. Yeah. So that's adding just a teeniest bit. It's not doing jack. Round. There we go. That's not bad. Just the tiniest little bit. Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. So now let's animate this text flying in. We've got the grid. Okay. The grid. So let's get more lined up here. Okay, so let's do a hold this down. We'll go to a plane, add a plane effector, Motex. Letters, plane effector, perfect. And inside this plane effector, we're gonna go into the fall off and we're gonna do a linear field. And already you can see what this is gonna do is this gets closer, it's gonna pull those down, but we don't want it to pull them down. We want it to pull them from the front. So basically we don't need to pull them down. We want to pull them forward. So we want them to come from, there we go, way in front of the camera. Maybe pull them up a little bit. We could pull them over a bit. Rotation we definitely want. We want that to be random. So 360 so they can come flying in. So as this goes to the right, Tron. Very, very Tron. Shoom, bam. That might be flying out too far. Boom, just like that. So now you can adjust the curvature of this, right? So if you go to remap and you go down here to the contour, you can actually make it a curve. And so we can start really messing with it. So if we really want it to like fly in quick, as this comes in, it's like bam, boom. That's way too fast. We can have it come in. Let's grab this, pull this down low. So now it's going to come in quick and then ease in real slow, which is what we want. Bam. Okay. So all we're doing is animating this one thing, this linear field. So we're going to keyframe that. We're going to slide over to like 60, move it over, keyframe that. And when we play, very nice. I kind of liked it when it was slower, so let's up the frames to 120. And we'll grab our linear field, grab our point, and we'll drag that up to about 90. Bop, 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 bop. I think that's going to be pretty good if we add a redshift camera here. We're going to scoot in. And we're going to keyframe this at the beginning. I'm going to back that out to be like right here. And we're going to right click that, add an animation tag, vibrate, enable position, like 20, 20, 20, 0.2, rotation to 0.2. Boom. Little floaty cam. 0.02. So, zoom, 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 right? Here we go. We've got this look here. Boom. Looks pretty cool. What's going to make that look even cooler is when we add in the GI. And And then we're going to add in the motion blur. Set this to 0.5. And now we're going to crank this up to 128, 64.003. GI is fine. We'll probably go like 512. Sampling overrides. Reflection 128. Lights 256. And now we're going to hit render on this scene so we can see the motion blur. So we made our candy and we made Tron. But you can see here when I add the motion blur, it gets very noisy. And that doesn't really look that good. So what we could do to increase that is actually these samples here. I wish I could say that there are other samples we could do. Maybe we should add more steps. Let's add 8 steps and see if that cleans that up at all. I'll take a look at this right here. And you have to bucket render to see motion blur. Or maybe not. Yeah, you have to render. Okay. So 8, and you have to actually hit render. Okay, so that didn't clean that up. I didn't think it would. 2, we're going to go back up here, and we're going to start cranking this up. 512 and 256. So the good thing is, since we're overriding all these things, we don't have to worry about it taking forever to render. So now when we hit render on this, these should clean up a little bit. They still should look blurry, but they'll be less noisy. Yeah, that looks much better. Cool. All right. So now we set up our render. And we go to output, film 24. We make sure our frame rate is set to 24 because that's going to be important. There we go. And it's going to adjust our timeline so everything stays the same. And that's good. Redshift. Yep. We want to do all frames. Okay. So then we'll hit render. And it's going to apply this glow. And I'm going to increase the thickness of this just the teeniest bit, maybe 0.8. And oops. I want to see what that looks like real quick before I render it out. That's fine. Let's take our plane. Let's do like 40 and 40 and just see what that looks like. See if that looks better. We could try 60 and 60. Oh my gosh, how do I keep missing that? Yeah. I'm cool with that. Let's turn our lights back up. See if that gives us anything to look at here. No. Might catch some highlights off of it when it's flying in. So let's just turn that back down to like 20 and 20. And we should be good to go. All right. Good deal. We'll hit save. We'll call this Tron. Yep. And we'll hit render. And there you go. Yep. I don't need to save it. I'll save it when it's done. Pretty cool. Alrighty, so if we take a look at what we made in the other render window real quick, we have our candy here. We made our candy here out of a nice candy we made. We also made one that was more chipped away out of this and stuff. But so, thanks for watching. That was my first stream. I kind of did it low key because I didn't know if my computer could handle streaming or stuff real well. So it says I've dropped some frames. I'm getting a new computer, so hopefully that will help a lot. Because this one is very, very old. It's 8 years old. Wow. 7 years old. Yeah. And but there we go. So that's how you can make some nice candy renders and some Tron. But we can take a look at this candy real quick again, just in case you missed it. But you can also go back and check at it. But I'm thinking I might start doing some live streams to YouTube. Try to get some requests to do. Might do some on Twitch. Might do some on Mixer. I don't know. How many triangles comprise of the candy? Yeah. Not that many because I did it smart, you know, but I could have done it a lot more, and then Unreal Engine 5 would have been able to handle it no problem, dude. I'll probably do more streaming and stuff in the future. So, there we go. Let me know in the comments of the YouTube. Hit me up on Instagram at Effectatron, or, you know, give me a follow on Twitch. Send me a message on Twitch or something. And just let me know if you guys want some more live streams. I really enjoy doing them. So, thanks for watching.